Fred Vasseur has recently made an important decision about Lewis Hamilton's alarming team radio troubles in Australia. This may change everything for the 7-time champion's transition to Ferrari, and what happens next, starting from this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix, might shape his entire 2025 season. What exactly went wrong between Hamilton and his engineer? What did Vasseur have to say about it? And, most crucially, how will Ferrari address this in China and beyond? Stay tuned to the end of the video, because we have all the details you don't want to miss. The Australian Grand Prix was intended to be the start of a new era for Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, a time of excitement and promise as the legendary driver put on the famous red suit. However, things didn't go as planned. The race turned out to be a stressful affair, with uncertain weather, tricky strategy calls, and, most crucially, a tense and sometimes tumultuous radio interaction between Hamilton and his new race engineer, Riccardo Adami. Throughout the race, Hamilton was plainly agitated by the pit wall's communication style. Several times, he was heard on the team radio requesting his engineer to leave him alone, indicating that he was overwhelmed by the amount of information being given. This was in stark contrast to the communication relationship he was accustomed to at Mercedes, where he had spent over a decade working with the same team of engineers who knew his preferences inside and out. Following the race, Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur addressed the problem directly, admitting that Hamilton's radio conversations were far from faultless. "It was not a clean one at all," Vasseur confessed, acknowledging that the flow of information between the pit wall and Hamilton was not optimal, particularly at important parts of the race when strategy decisions were being taken. One of the most important events happened when Ferrari delayed bringing Hamilton into the pits for intermediate tyres, which cost him numerous positions. Was this a simple miscalculation? Or did the confusion on the radio lead to the costly error? Vasseur provided a straightforward response. He sees this as a temporary setback as Hamilton and his new race engineer learn to collaborate. "It's the first race, the first time, that we have to communicate between the pit wall and the car," Vasseur explained. He emphasized that Ferrari would take the necessary steps to improve communication, saying, "We need to find a better way to communicate between the car and the pit wall, but we will learn from race 1, and it's not an issue." For Hamilton, communication with his race engineer is one of the most important components of his driving experience. At Mercedes, he had a near telepathic relationship with Peter Bonington, his longtime engineer, who knew when to provide critical information and when to pull back and let Hamilton focus on driving. That relationship does not yet exist at Ferrari, as evidenced by what happened in Australia. Ferrari runs significantly differently than Mercedes. Their engineers communicate in a more systematic and precise manner, which might lead to information overload. In contrast, Hamilton values clarity and efficiency. This difference in approach could have a significant impact on his performance this season, unless Ferrari addresses it soon. Vasseur and Ferrari's engineering staff recognized that Hamilton's radio troubles in Australia were not a trivial misunderstanding, but rather a fundamental divergence in communication techniques between the driver and the team. As a result, Ferrari is currently developing a methodical strategy to enhancing their race communication protocols, ensuring that Hamilton receives information in a way that improves rather than distracts him. One of the significant changes is a reduction of non-essential information during stressful race intervals. In Australia, Hamilton complained about receiving too much feedback from his race engineer, Riccardo Adami, especially when he was trying to navigate changing track conditions. Ferrari is now analysing when and how they send information to ensure that Hamilton only hears what is absolutely necessary, particularly during overtakes, tyre degradation phases, and high-pressure strategy calls. Furthermore, Ferrari is adopting a more systematic and predictable approach to radio messages, which was second nature to Hamilton during his Mercedes days with Peter Bonington. This entails implementing precise, pre-agreed language for various racing conditions, minimizing ambiguity, and ensuring that when Hamilton needs vital data such as tyre wear feedback, gap to rivals, or urgent strategy modifications, he receives it in the shortest and most efficient manner possible. changes to pre-race briefings will also be significant. While Ferrari already holds comprehensive strategy discussions prior to each Grand Prix, the team has also included particular communication drills with Hamilton to build a clear routine for various race scenarios. For example, if the weather suddenly changes, the pit wall will predefine when and how to communicate that information to avoid unwanted radio congestion. This will also apply to tyre strategy, fuel-saving instructions, and race management decisions, ensuring Hamilton always knows what to expect from his engineer and avoids second-guessing mid-race. Internally, Ferrari's engineering department is also scrutinizing how strategy decisions are made and communicated, especially in races with uncertain weather. The delayed pit stop decision in Australia demonstrated how misunderstanding or hesitancy can cost crucial positions. The team is currently aiming to streamline decision-making, which means that once a strategic call is made, it will be carried out with immediate clarity over the radio, reducing indecision and misunderstanding. Furthermore, Ferrari is actively seeking feedback from Hamilton at all stages of this process. Unlike a rigid, top-down approach, the team allows Hamilton to customize how he receives information, giving him a say in customizing his communication style rather than asking him to adapt to Ferrari's current procedures. In fact, this isn't simply about fixing a radio problem. It's about creating a smooth communication flow between Hamilton and Ferrari, allowing him to focus solely on driving while trusting that his engineer is providing him with the correct information at the appropriate time. Essentially, Ferrari will adjust to Hamilton rather than making him to completely conform to their approach. This is a huge move, demonstrating Vasseur's commitment to making this collaboration succeed. But the real concern is how this will affect Hamilton's performance in the next race in China. Hamilton is intimately familiar with the Shanghai track. He has won 6 races at this circuit, making him the most successful driver in F1 history. But this time, things will be different. Not only is he driving for Ferrari, but he is also getting used to an entirely new car philosophy, team dynamics, and, of course, radio communication. Hamilton's success in China will be determined by Ferrari's ability to make these communication adjustments in real time. If they can find a better rhythm on the radio and improve their in-race decision-making, Hamilton may have a lot better performance. However, if the flaws from Australia linger, frustration may flare up again, putting further more pressure on Ferrari to get things right. Another element to consider is Hamilton's comparison to teammate Charles Leclerc. The Monegasque driver had his own issues with the team in Australia, but he eventually finished ahead of Hamilton. As the season unfolds, the internal conflict at Ferrari will become an important plotline. If Leclerc continues to outpace Hamilton, concerns will be raised about whether the British driver can thrive in Ferrari's system. However, if Ferrari addresses the radio issue and optimizes their race strategy, Hamilton may easily turn things around and demonstrate that he is still a championship-caliber driver, albeit in a new team. What happens in China will be a defining moment in Hamilton's Ferrari career. If communication improves and the car performs well, this might be the watershed moment that sets the tone for the rest of the season. However, if the same concerns from Australia recur, doubts and dissatisfaction will only increase. So now we hand it over to you. Do you believe Ferrari will be able to resolve Hamilton's communication issues in time for China? Or will this be a recurring problem that costs him crucial points? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything occurring in Formula 1. We'll see you in the next video with even more analysis, updates, and breaking news from the paddock.